Hello everyone, we are Group 4 and this is our final presentation. And next page is our catalog. Okay, you can see that we will take turns with the present on each of the topic. Also, you can get our sequence of the presentation in this catalog. So, the policy we choose is called 流域治水关联法案。Yeah. So the origin of this bill is due to climate change. The average precipitation of Japan at the end of 21st century has increased to 1.1 times, and the flood frequency even doubled than that of the 20th century. Yeah, 1.1 times. Japan is very big, so 1.1 times is very huge number. Okay. To cope with the problem with the flood getting more and more frequently and fiercely, the government carried out this bill to maintain hardware equipment, examining water policy, and draw a watershed of river in bird eye view, and the most important, make everyone work together to enhance the effective of policy.
I took the main problem of this policy wants to resolve. In Japan, in recent years, the typhoon in eastern Japan in the first year of labor and the heavy rain on July 2nd of the first year of labor have caused floods in various parts of Japan to become more serious and frequent. Next, the 5 goals displayed in PPT were given as the goals expected for this policy. 1. Enhance the effectiveness of watershed control. 2. Measures to prevent floods as much as possible. 3. Cooperation from other towns for early recovery. 4. Amend the flood policy. 5. Review of breakwater.
In this part, I will introduce about what will this policy take to solve the problem. There are 6 of the title, and the first one is further advanced hardware measures such as repairs and maintenance. And there's including regional planning, sewer maintenance of the embankment. And the second one is measures for flood storage and reinforcement of river basin. There's including create a water storage function protection zone to protect land used for water storage and stagnant basins along the river. And the second one is protect urban green space and use it as a green infrastructure with water storage and infiltration functions, and support the development of local and private rainwater storage and infiltration facilities through certification systems, subsidies, and tax exemptions. And the third one is strengthening measures for rivers and sewers. Dam construction and regeneration, use of dams, rainwater storage and infiltration facilities, development of evacuation bays, hazard map creation, and embankment reinforcement. Number 4 is widen rivers with flood control planning. And number 5 is establish a river flood control committee, including the public and private sectors together, bringing together stakeholders from the national government, prefectures, and so on. Explore measures to strengthen rainwater storage and seepage and land use in flooded areas. And the last one is collaboration with town development corresponding to water disaster prevention and living wisdom, including create an area for people who need special attention to prevent flood damage, and confirm the safety of houses and facilities in advance, and promote the relocation of dangerous area by expanding the area requirements of the disaster prevention group relocation promotion project. And establish a base as an evacuation site in the event of a disaster, and implement flood control measures in each area to strengthen the safety of urban areas. Explain the scope of making flood disaster maps to small and medium rivers. And the last one is provide advice and suggestion from municipal authorities on evacuation plans and training related to facilities for people in need of special care to ensure the effectiveness of evacuation.
Now, I'm going to criticize the policies from different aspects. First, from the economical aspect, these are not economically viable. One of the policies requires constant use of money for the maintenance and reinforcement of sewers and embankments for a long period of time. Also, the policy in the social aspect will not generate any income, but it can prevent the waste of money on the losses that the flood could generate. Second, in the technological aspect, these policies do not require any new technology for the strengthening and maintenance of the sewers. Plus, for the social part, it does not require any technology at all, which means these policies can be implemented immediately if necessary, but there must be changes in the infrastructure inside the city. Then, for the environment aspect, most of these policies are meant to change the urban area, so there will be minimal consequences on the natural environment, but it doesn't mean that the green areas won't be changed. In the public safety aspect, these measures are meant to protect the people from the flood, saving the largest amount of lives and materials as possible, which means there won't be a problem with this aspect. For the water quality aspect, this will depend on the private sector that are willing to store water, especially if they are able to follow the government water quality guidelines. And finally, with respect to the water supply, by adding new places where to store water all over the basin, there will be more supply than what it was already, which means there will be no problem with the supply.
Criticize and judgment on the good and bad about this policy. First one, by strengthening the maintenance of sewers, it not only can provide a better control of flood by removing anything that can slow the water flow, but it can make sure that the walls of it are not damaged, which in turn will make sure the water doesn't leak, preventing the erosion of soil around it, which can prevent sinkhole. But it requires a greater amount of capital and workers, which in turn will mean a higher amount of taxes. Secondly, the storage and reinforcement of river basin can alleviate the damage caused by the flood to a certain extent, but it requires some measure to make sure that the private places where the water is stored are not contaminated. And third one, the town collaboration is a good way to save lives in case of flood. Although it will not prevent the disaster itself, which means it still will cause a lot of materials damage, it is useful to reduce a number of deaths. Here are a few more ways to deal with flooding. First one, natural flood management. Natural flood management considers small measures to reduce the flow of water before it reaches larger river. Measures might include using small barriers in ditches and fields or notches cut into embankments to divert the water into open land. Letting pools from outside the main channel of river means the water is temporarily removed from the main flow, reducing the power of the floodwaters. Natural flood management offers a sustainable approach to managing floods and is intended to complement flood barriers and concrete walls. Secondly, dredging rivers. The basic aim of dredging is to remove silt, which consists fine sand, clay, and small particles of rock from the river's bed, potentially increasing its capacity to carry water downstream. The process usually involves the excavator and vacuum pumped a mount on a bed or on the river bank that removes silt from the river, but the issues of whether rivers should be dredged is not clear-cut.
With these policies, although it cannot prevent the flood disaster, and they are simple solutions, sometimes they can reduce the number of lives, and they also could reduce material damages. We also can add new places to store water by using technologies which are already available. Of course, we can also imitate the advanced water control policies of other countries and combine our own national conditions to control water. Countries should exchange their ideas about environmental improvement issues. Environmental governance is a big problem, and how to solve it requires all of us to explore it together. The water problem is not only Japan needs to face, but also other countries around the world also need to face it. We can get enlightenment from this bill. Maybe it can solve our water problem in the future. I hope everyone take an action on these environmental problems.